Today, you can see discounted currencies everywhere. It doesn't matter where you look, the dollar index will give you one tail. But when you compare the actual money that you spend against real items like food and energy, things are completely out of balance. I'm going to go over some of that data with you today, and if you stick with me to the end, I'll give you 3 nations that are now in the process of devaluing their currencies and collapsing. Since there is a lot to discuss, let's start with the UK. But before we start, welcome to Economic News. Please like the video and subscribe with all notifications turned on. Now, let us get back to the video. I'm going to show you a few events from the United Kingdom, and then we'll talk about China. UK train drivers strike again, risk of more action if talks fail. So, for one thing, we see a lot of the civil unrest that has been festering here in the UK. We've seen a lot since the Brexit process began years ago. There was back and forth about whether we should do it or not. And then there was the big debate about whether this would lead to the country's demise. When you look at what's going on here right now, the economy as well as the rest of Europe appears to be in terrible shape. They require development and significant change, and it does not appear that this will occur very soon. According to this, strikes cost UK restaurants £100 million as staffs stay at home. Shops in central London see a significant decline in traffic, while train drivers and instructors band together for a day of major protests. So of course, this will have a consequence. That's another issue. You've had strikes going on, and the same thing is occurring in France. Maybe it's for different reasons, including pensions, but what's the main issue? It is a lack of wealth, and this does not come suddenly. It's not as if something from outer space sprang out of nowhere and caused an issue. This has been going on for years and years, developing and churning, and it is happening in the UK, France, and other countries as well. UK insolvencies reached the highest since 2009 financial crisis. This is critical right now for firms in the United Kingdom. They are encountering extremely high levels of pricing that they must pay for their merchandise. How many different stores had to close down what they thought would be just for a short time in 2020 and 2021 because the pricing of goods was simply too high. They couldn't get workers, they were constrained, they were locked down, all these different things, and now they're starting to feel it. And some of those who were able to keep this going to keep the business running now can't do it anymore for one reason or another. That is currently at 2009 levels, okay? Inflation in UK shops hits record despite broader easing. Prices have not yet peaked and will remain high. The British Retail Consortium cautions retailers that they face high energy and labor expenses, which is what I've been discussing here. And you can see that. Of course, people will be outraged and they will flock to the streets to protest. As I have stated, the United Kingdom, France, or wherever you live could be affected. You have to know this by now. This isn't like we're reading stories, reading fiction, or watching Netflix right now. No, this is happening right in front of our eyes. In this video, I'll show you 3 examples of collapses that are happening right now in places that you would not have expected only a few years ago. How could this happen? And this is when things become complicated. Britain sets out plans to regulate crypto industry in wake of FTX collapse. So, you have significant difficulties in the UK, and this is what the government is doing. They intend to control cryptocurrency. There should be no resources going towards regulating cryptocurrency if this was a realistic circumstance. When people are striking at this level, when people can't afford to eat, when businesses are closing down, this is an extremely inefficient use of resources, time, and your taxes. UK Defense Committee Chair calls for a massive arms factory in Poland. Given what is going on between Ukraine and Russia, they want to create that armaments factory in Poland and have those items ready to go so that they may be utilized in World War III. Is this, however, the wisest use of your tax money? That is entirely up to you to decide. You have the authority to decide. I'm aware that many individuals have strong feelings on the issue. I simply want to draw attention to the fact that your nations are currently experiencing issues. And of course, what they are worried about is constantly assisting the military-industrial complex and other firms and mega conglomerates that are never ever for your benefit. Now, consider China. There are some severe concerns going on there as well. China's real estate crisis isn't over yet, IMF says. Although the administration's recent policy steps are helpful, we believe that greater action is required to address the real estate crisis. This is critical. China claims that it has no problems, but do they realize that they do when 65 million of their properties are vacant? There is $150 billion of bad debt that is related with distressed debt. The whole China property market is worth something crazy like $62 trillion. It is regarded as the world's largest asset class. So when a crack occurs there, you must pay close notice. It's not as if there's a crack and then it's merely $62 trillion. No big problem. Now, $62 trillion are plummeting precipitously. If you look at the initiatives, many of them are addressing financing concerns for developers who are still in pretty good financial condition, which will assist, but the challenges are the property market is suffering serious financial troubles, which have yet to be addressed. The issue of the enormous stock of unfinished houses in general has yet to be handled, so that's what they'll have to deal with. We'll see what they do. What is China actively attempting to accomplish right now in preparation for 2023? This is actually part of what they are attempting to do because they want greater domestic consumption. China vows to boost consumption to power economic recovery. They intend to do this through social funding. We'll see whether they can do it, but they have a housing problem. They need to increase spending to increase GDP. They need to increase exports, and lockdowns are a significant concern, and if China's IT industry continues to be liberalized, that is obviously optimistic for China, and I had to add this in here as well. German industry to pay 40 more for energy than pre-crisis, study says. This is critical for a lot of these groups right now who rely on German exports and German industry, especially given what's going on in Europe. This relates to the beginning, which is why I brought it up. However, you remained until this point in the video. Do you want to know which 3 countries are on the verge of collapsing? Let me get to it right now and show you. Lebanon devalues official exchange rate by 90%. This is in addition to all that has occurred during the previous many decades. What they are going through now in Lebanon is worse than their civil war. Consider how awful that is when you see it. A 90% depreciation of the currency. You may be thinking to yourself, 90% devaluation? That's insane. A currency devaluation is absurd, yet the United States did the same thing. If my recollection serves me well, they depreciated the currency overnight in 1973. It's not as if people were looking forward and thinking, oh, they are going to devalue the currency. I've got an idea. I'm going to purchase a bunch of real assets today. It devalues and I'll be so wealthy as a result. No, that's not what occurred. This occurred during a major crisis. People were unable to sustain the devastation, resulting in a 40% devaluation overnight. It can occur anywhere. Don't assume that what I'm presenting you right now is something that cannot happen since it has happened before. That is Lebanon. How about this? Blackouts, currency dives, and corruption. Pakistan's economy is on the brink of collapse. Pakistan is now in distress. They have enormous blackouts, as if the entire nation is blacked out. They want funds from the IMF, and you know what happens when the IMF arrives. Pakistan has been added to the list. Argentina comes next. Argentina unveils the new 2,000 peso banknote as inflation bites. It's yet another country on the verge of collapse. As you can see, the new note, which will be worth $11, arrives after consumer prices increased by roughly 95% in the previous year. So if you think about it, they effectively doubled. The cost has been increased. So what are they going to do? They generate larger bills. That fixes the problem, right? This is the highest rate of inflation since 1991. On the alternate markets, the biggest bill, the 1,000 peso note, is worth only $2.70. So, you can see what occurs when these illicit marketplaces emerge. This eventually becomes an issue and is never resolved. It cannot be resolved, as we have seen time and again, and things begin to spiral downward, which is quite troublesome for the people of Argentina. Argentina and Brazil have both said, "Hey, maybe we should develop our own currency together." Consider the BRICS nations of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. They are attempting to band together within themselves in order to resist depreciating against, at the very least, the US dollar. They will attempt everything they can. Their currencies are unquestionably weaker in regard to the US dollar. Today, there is a major issue. These are the three nations that are truly suffering, and you can see how strong Argentina's currency previously was in the case of Argentina. So how about Lebanon? This was a thriving country only a few decades ago. It seemed, and yet we see these facts emerge day after day, appearing terribly sad. So you need actual assets? You need to construct something for yourself, and you need to keep an eye on the future. Thank you for watching this video. Please check out our other videos on the channel if you enjoyed watching this one. Take care, and I will see you all very soon.